That's right, y'all. I am stepping into the line of fire to defend Peter Jackson's omission of the Scouring of the Shire from The Lord of the Rings. But before I surrender myself to crucifixion at the hands of the Tolkien purists, let me remind you that I'm just thinking out loud here. So if you like my brain vomit, you know where the like and subscribe buttons are. One last thing for the few of my subscribers actually watching this, I'm sorry I haven't made any long form content in a bit, but I have made quite a few original shorts that I'm quite proud of, so go check those out. Now, without further ado, let's dive into what is possibly the most controversial choice in this mostly masterful adaptation of the definitive modern fantasy epic. First, let me offer a bit of background for those who haven't read the books. If that doesn't include you, you can use the chapters to skip ahead. In The Lord of the Rings, Tolkien's crowning accomplishment and arguably the most legendary work of fiction ever written, the story does not end with the defeat of the Dark Lord, the crowning of King Elisar, and the return of our diminutive heroes to a life of peace fitting of their deeds. Instead, the four hobbits find upon their return to the Shire that the carefree home of their old lives is not at all what it was when they left it so long ago. It has been overrun by ruffians from outside its borders who, enforcing the will of their boss, a figure known only as Sharky, have transformed their idyllic countryside home into an industrialized communist society, where the natural beauty of the land has been spoiled by machinery, maximizing the efficiency of resource production, and the locals are robbed of their livings to feed the big people that are now in charge. The exhausted and homesick hobbits are forced to lead an uprising, during which it is revealed that Sharky is none other than Saruman, the fallen Astari, who, it can be assumed, conquered and transformed the Shire along with much of Eriador and Rhovanion to furnish his army and build his own empire, and later fled there after his downfall, seeking to hold on to some semblance of power. He is ultimately killed in a similar manner as in the movie, slain by his fed-up servant Grima after one too many insults. Our heroes then have little rest as they are obligated to lead the rebuilding of their home, which can never truly be the same no matter what they do, having been touched by the ravages of war. While many casual readers don't understand the purpose of this part of the story, as it seems to detract from the real climax, those who read deeper can see the reasoning behind this strange chapter. Tolkien sought to show that happily ever afters are never as simple as fairy tales would have you believe, that war, of which Tolkien saw plenty in his time, leaves its mark on everything, and that all which it touches, it changes forever. He wanted to show how the horrors of war affected the ordinary people as well as the heroes, and how its effects are not limited to what is seen in battle. He wanted to show the scars left on every facet of life in the wake of atrocities. Meanwhile, the films, to the great ire of many fans, omit this epilogue to the story in favor of a more streamlined, cinematically appealing ending, which shows a more satisfying conclusion to our heroes' stories, able to return with honor to their beloved home and enjoy a peaceful retirement from war. As you can imagine, this has ruffled more than a few feathers among those who see this as yet another example of Peter Jackson's inability to see the vision of what Tolkien's seminal masterpiece was meant to be. They argue that he abandons this deeply meaningful and tragically real ending for a crowd-pleasing happily ever after. However, I would argue otherwise. The first and most obvious argument in favor of the films is that film and paper are two very different mediums, and what works for one will not necessarily work for another. Tolkien may have been able to get away with an anticlimactic ending in his format for his story, but with the way that film demands your attention for a set amount of time, and with how long the film kept audiences in theaters as it was, the sudden change of pace following the expected ending may not have worked for the viewers. So one perfectly acceptable justification for the film's ending is that it was simply a good filmmaking decision. However, there is far more to the final scenes of the film than what many give them credit for. Look at how our Hobbit heroes ride back home into the town they grew up in, the town that they love, exactly as it was when they left it. They are all on horseback, bedecked in all their gear and livery from war. Riding triumphantly, heads proudly held high, they look like noble war heroes. And how do the farmers they pass by acknowledge them? With a derisive shake of the head. Crazy, adventurous young hobbits, they must be thinking. They're as foolish as old Bilbo. I'm sure that even if the heroes didn't consciously hope to be showered with flowers and carried on the shoulders of the people, they likely expected some kind of acknowledgement, some kind of appreciation for all that they sacrificed to save the lives these ungrateful halflings still enjoy because of them, some gratitude to compensate for the horrors they experienced, Witch horrors have taken parts of their lives they can never take back. But no, instead they are ignored and even shunned by their neighbors, who don't and cannot possibly understand even the slightest bit of it. I absolutely love the next scene, where the four heroes are sitting together at a table in the Green Dragon Inn, where we saw them together in the Fellowship of the Ring before they were thrown into their life-changing quest. But whereas they were merrily singing, dancing, and drinking with everyone else last we saw them there, now they sit alone, save for each other, in their own corner of the tavern. The gay festivities, the singing and laughter are all distant in the background while Howard Shore's music grows solemn. They stare sadly at their drinks in front of them, casting longing glances at the merriment around them. No, the world they left has not changed, but they have. That's the thing, and it's almost more tragic. The world they grew up in is still here, but the part of them that is for that world has been taken from them forever. They came home, but found it is no longer truly home. Not for them. They did save what they loved, but not for themselves. And they don't even have the consolation of the appreciation of their friends, who will never truly be able to grasp what they have experienced, and now act as if they are not even there. The heartbreaking irony. The next shot shows the four looking at each other in perfect understanding and clinking their tankards softly, a sign that though all else has changed for them, they still have each other. And though they have all changed, they have changed together, and only they can understand what they have gone through, and give each other the comfort they desperately need. And of course, I love the next moment, where Sam sees Rosie, and we're reminded that not everything changes, as he finds himself once again terrified at the prospect of speaking to his crush. But whereas before he quailed beneath his fear, we now see Samwise the Brave overcome that hesitation and rise to take his prize. I came close to tears in writing this script. This ending is far more subtle in its depiction of the aftermath of war, and the lessons it demonstrates differ from those conveyed by Tolkien, but it is at least as sad, and I feel that for far more people, at least in the modern Western world, where most of our wars are fought in faraway countries that so many here know nothing about, this is the reality. So many soldiers go off to war and are changed by their experiences, only to return to a country that doesn't appreciate their sacrifice or understand their pain, nor does it even feel like home to them. Tolkien's experiences fighting in the Great War and living through the Second Great War that raged as he wrote The Lord of the Rings influenced what he wrote, and perhaps the truths of the more current wars in the Middle East affected Peter Jackson as he directed the films. Whereas the veterans of those wars returned to find their homes forever changed, veterans now tend to come home to a country that doesn't appreciate their service. I hope that all who fail to appreciate the deeply poignant meaning within the movie's ending watch this video and see what is contained inside it. Even if the decision to remove the Scouring of the Shire was primarily motivated by a desire to streamline the story, the writers managed to place a true gem in this movie that I find deeply beautiful and which all who don't ought to appreciate. But what do you think? Which ending do you find more touching and why? Let me know in the comments below, and I look forward to joining you in the conversation. As always, I'm just here to kick off the discussion, so until next time, never stay silent.